Hello and welcome to Inside Politics. My name is Anastasia Lavrina. Across Eurasia, the political map is changing once again. From the South Caucasus to Central Asia, new roads of influence are taking shape: economic, political and strategic. Today, the key question is not who dominates the region, but who can connect it. The Middle Corridor continues to reshape trade between China and Europe, while the C5+1 summit held in Washington on November 6 brought the United States back into the Central Asian conversation, showing that this region is now central to global diplomacy. The summit came as Washington is focusing more on secure supply chains, access to critical minerals, and new roads linking Eurasia. For the United States, it's a chance to diversify energy access, reduce risks along transport corridors, and strengthen the presence of American business in the region. For Central Asian countries, it meant an opportunity to raise their international profile, attract investment, and build a more balanced relationship with major powers. Meanwhile, regional players from Turkey and Russia to China and the European Union are all rethinking their strategies, turning Eurasia into a complex arena of both competition and cooperation. So, where does America stand in this shifting order? Is Washington ready to engage with a region that no longer waits for outside leadership but seeks equal partnership? To discuss this, my guest tonight is Ambassador Richard Hoagland, retired U.S. diplomat, former co-chair of the OEC Minsk Group, and one of the most experienced American voices on Eurasian affairs. Mr. Hoagland, thank you so much for joining Inside Politics today.
Thank you to you. It's my pleasure to talk with you again.
Thank you very much. So let me start with this question. Many analysis says that Washington's attention has long been drawn to Ukraine and the Indo-Pacific region, leaving Central Asia and South Caucasus behind. Do you share that view, and do you think that the region now is attracting more attention from Washington? What is the key reason for that?
I think the key reason for new attention from Washington is, quite frankly, that we have a new presidential administration. In the past, the United States tended to keep Central Asia and the Caucasus region, South Caucasus, a little bit at arm's length. The new administration thinks differently than past administrations. They make policy differently than past administrations. It's much more pragmatic. And I think that's where we are right now. We're in a new pragmatic period of American foreign policy.
Well, Ambassador, from your experience, how does Washington really define its long-term interests here in the region of the South Caucasus and Central Asia? It is more about stability and energy routes, as I mentioned in the introduction of this episode of Inside Politics, or it's more about prevention of the region from falling under the rival spheres of influence, the countries like Russia and China?
Well, if we talk about the influence of Russia and China on the region, we're almost talking about a new great game, like in the 19th century with the British Empire. But I don't think that's happening right now. I think what's happening is that there is a renewed interest in many of the regions that we did not pay close attention to in the past. And there are now people in charge who are making those decisions, say we need to have a foothold there. Now, that does not mean at all that the United States foreign policy is trying to push out Russia or China, because after all, we respect, I'm sure, very, very highly what has been called multi-vector foreign policy. We understand that the countries in the region need to have good relations with Russia, their neighbor, with China, their neighbor, certainly with the European Union, which does a lot of investing, and then with the United States. So we want to make sure that there is an even playing field for all the big powers, not just one.
Ambassador Hogland, but talking about the future cooperation of the United States with Central Asian countries, is it more about economic cooperation, energy, transport, or political influence?
You know what? I would say if we do it right, if we do the bilateral policies correctly, it covers all areas across the entire spectrum. It's energy, it's other kinds of business investment, it's people to people things, it's education, it's culture, the whole gamut of things that happen in foreign policy. If we do it right, that's how we will cover.
Well, the recent summit C5+1 held in Washington, this is the first time such kind of summit is being held in Washington with the presidency of Donald Trump during his second term. And it was seen as a signal that the United States wants to re-engage with Central Asia. But let's be honest, in this long-term engagement or simply a geopolitical counterweight, probably there is also an intention to, let's say, find a new way of cooperation beyond the China's Belt and Road Initiative, or United States is willing to see this project to be realized.
I am certain that the United States has no intention of trying to interfere with China's intention to continue to build the middle corridor across Central Asia, across the Caspian Sea, across the Caspian nations, including Azerbaijan. I do not think that the United States is doing a foreign policy now to push against powers like China. I think we're in a very pragmatic period right now. What is good for everyone is what we want to see happen, because in the end, that means there is more peace. And when there is peace, there's an opportunity for business. And when there's business, there's an opportunity for wealth, and it makes countries more stable. I think we're looking for a stable region throughout the area.
Couple of months ago, it was quite difficult to imagine United States of America to have a constructive dialogue with China. But after the recent meeting between the two leaders, Donald Trump even said that Xi Jinping is a great leader. Therefore, maybe probably there is a new era of cooperation between Washington and Beijing, and Central Asia is an area of interest where two countries can even cooperate.
Well, I don't think things have completely flipped from one side to the other. I think what's happening is, as I said, the United States foreign policy at this moment in history is more pragmatic than it has been in the most recent years. In the more recent years, we were stuck in ideology sometimes. To be very blunt about it, issues of human rights and corruption in countries dominated the policy of the United States in this region. Now, those things are terribly important. Human rights, getting rid of corruption in government, making things work well. But the difference right now is that instead of focusing only on those issues, I believe that U.S. foreign policy is more pragmatic, and it's looking not just at ideology, but at reality. I think we're in a period of reality right now, and that's good.
So we should expect more engagement of the United States in cooperation with Central Asia, but we cannot ignore, as you also mentioned, the South Caucasus, Armenia and Azerbaijan post-conflict developments in the regions, where after the meetings held in Washington on 8th of August, the involvement of the United States is also clear. How do you explain the involvement of the United States in these post-conflict developments taking place in between of two countries?
Once again, I think it's a kind of pragmatism, but it's also looking to settle the long-standing problems throughout the region. Now, we're talking about the C5 summit in Washington on November 6th. The C5, for all intents and purposes, I firmly believe, is becoming already the C6, because whenever the 5 countries of Central Asia meet at different levels on different issues. They now invite Azerbaijan as an equal partner. Now, maybe we don't have an official C6 yet, but I think that is most definitely the wave of the future. And ultimately, I wouldn't be surprised if we move toward a C8 involving Georgia and Armenia, because after all, we're talking about the middle corridor, which stretches across the entire region. And if we're going to be really pragmatic and positive about building strong relations for the future, then we'll look at the entire region, not just a small block of the region or a big block of the region.
Well, Mr. Hoagland, it's quite clear about the interest of the United States in the region, but what about the Central Asian countries and the countries in the region of the South Caucasus? As you mentioned, C8. So what the countries in our region can gain from this close integration with the United States? What are the key benefits?
I think the key benefits are building and keeping a sense of balance in foreign policy, in their international relations, because what that does then is increase the independence and the firm leadership in each country. Because if you have to look over your shoulder all the time toward Moscow and say, oh, they're going to do something against us, or if you look at Beijing and say, we're going to lose investment if we don't do this. No, what this is doing is strengthening the individual countries in the region. It's making them strong players on the international platform of diplomatic relations, and that's positive, very positive for the region and for the individual countries. It solidifies their independence after a full generation of moving in that direction.
But we cannot ignore the fact that there are other international organizations and alliances existing in the region, like BRICS, for example, Organization of Turkic States, and the willingness of other countries to have more deep integration in between, apart from the cooperation with the United States. So do you believe that United States can also contribute to these processes or compete with this global influence in the region, or any other opinion probably there is in Washington?
Yes, I don't think that the United States is seeking to compete with these other international organizations. In fact, I know that the United States is, in general, quite pleased with the Organization of Turkic States and the kinds of things that it's doing. Look, what this means is that international groups like the Organization of Turkic States, like BRICS, like many others, they play a secondary role, but an important role. Just because it's secondary doesn't mean it's not important. Yes, of course, we have the 4 capitals, Brussels and Washington and Moscow and Beijing, but after all, life is complicated and reality is complicated. So let's bring in these other organizations. The more that they are working together, the more chances there are that there will be peace in the future.
Well, Ambassador Hoagland, thank you so much for sharing your insights and experience with us.
I'm very pleased. Thank you for your excellent questions. All the best to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, the world is changing faster than ever, and understanding these transitions requires both wisdom and perspective. You have been watching Inside Politics. I'm Anastasia Lavrina. See you next time as we continue to explore the stories behind global power shifts.